Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 10 horror games. These apparently we do not have one on the channel like I thought we did. Like I was scouring my channel because I for sure thought we did this.
We had made it was an idea you'd come up with a couple of years ago, and I had a really old list that I had done, but we had never recorded it.
Oh, okay.
So I had it totally updated because it was old school stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, better late than never, I guess. So with it being the spooky season, let's go ahead and talk about these. So this is a genre that I feel like is a little bit more that can be taken in multiple different ways. Like, how did you come up with your list? How did you define horror?
Well, the first part I started with was mainly just theme. Okay. Like taking scary movies, stuff like that, anything that fit that. Then I also then took into account anything that kind of just, I don't know, kind of strikes fear in you a little bit. I ordered mine not in order of my favorite games necessarily, but how much I feel the horror theme was represented, and that's kind of how I ordered mine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. I went in a similar fashion where it's almost blatantly obvious what is scary. I almost was going to go a route of things that make me personally fearful, but then it would just be top 10 water themed or ocean themed games.
Right.
Number one would be oceans. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go that far, but essentially I took the games that I thought of and then I ranked them in order of how terrifying it would be if I was in that situation.
Oh, okay. So see, I didn't necessarily mine are ordered in representation, like when I'm playing the game, if I feel the theme is coming through of a horror type thing, and art has a lot to do with it and stuff like that as well. So
right. Yeah. So how many crossovers do you think we'll have?
Looking at my list and I don't know now that you said how you ranked them, but I would initially I was going to say 4 at least.
I think
that's 4 or 5 maybe.
That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. It just depends on which direction you go with it.
Yeah. That's that's kind of what I'm thinking. Looking at my list, I'm thinking 4 as well, because it could be 5 if maybe even 6 if you thought of them, but I don't think you did. But let's go ahead and get started with my honorable mention, which is for sure going to be very high on your list. And this is a fantastic game that at this point in time was finally announced for a season 3, so I'm super stoked, and that is Cthulhu Death May Die. Yes, we are finally getting more content for this game, thank God. This game is fantastic. One of the few Cthulhu Lovecraft games that actually doesn't feel like the rest of them. This is a game where you are just average everyday people going in and stopping a scenario and also trying to kill an ancient one, which obviously sounds like every other Lovecraft game, except in this one you do a smash up style where you pick an ancient one and you pick a scenario and there's out of a bunch and then shuffle them together, all the cards and stuff, so you get a mix and match of different cases. So you can fight the same old one but have it go through every single scenario and it's going to play out differently. The reason why this is an honorable mention, not that this doesn't invoke that horror feel, but out of all the ones I put, this one you feel more like a badass. You feel more actiony in it just because of the sense of madness that you get. You have a farmer who has a shotgun who can just walk in and just start popping off cultists and enemies as the game goes on. I still think though that this 100% fits this list, because even though you are pretty strong by the end of it, it's based off your sanity, like you're completely insane. So it's automatically, I always envisioned it as you're just throwing caution to the wind.
Yeah.
That you're like, well, I mean, I'm about to die anyway, so might as well just go as hard as possible. But yeah, this one, man, I really hope season 3 they do bigger tiles.
I bet they keep it the same just because that way it can, because it's supposed to be able to mix and match with the rest of it. So I doubt they're gonna
They can do an
go
upgrade.
different. Yeah,
Maybe an
I don't know.
upgrade
Maybe
pack of
maybe like
tiles.
a tile pack. Yeah,
Yeah,
they could, I guess.
that'd be. We'll see. But yeah, so this is my honorable mention: Cthulhu Death May Die.
More on this later.
You're like, oh, this isn't on my list. I actually don't like the game anymore.
All right. My honorable mention is a game that you had owned a long time before me. And you'd kind of talked it up a little bit. It's a card game version of a big minis game. And I watched one of your videos, and that's what got me into playing it. And that is Dark Souls card game.
This is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is just the graphic design of this game. Like the cards are all dark and almost like shadowed, I mean, it like everything about this game is just dark and ominous.
Yeah.
And stuff. And the monsters are creepy as hell. And when you're playing this game, it has that spatial awareness thing, a spatial like battling too. You like you have those player mats there that you have your stuff laid out on, and you're doing stuff like that. It keeps getting harder and harder as you go, as you're powering up more and more. If you have the expansions too, it just adds more and more creepy stuff. Like just I don't know if you can really tell. Like when you look at these cards, it's just like even the sword, it's just everything's in black, encased in black. So it's just kind of has this really, I don't know how to, like an impending doom kind of art style and everything. And it's not your typical monster art. I mean, if Dark Souls, the stuff like that, I mean, it's kind of fits that,
Yeah.
I really don't play the Dark Souls games. I've never played the minis game. This is the first thing into that, but it's still just, I get that feeling when I play this game, because it's not an easy game by any means either. So I primarily play it.
It's not.
Yeah, I play it solo.
If you're playing solo, God, with one person.
I do too.
Okay, yeah,
two.
I'm like 2 is probably the way to go, because 1, you're just taking all the hits. It's pretty rough. Yeah, this one is, I didn't even think of this one. This probably would have been considered at least, but you can also fit the Dark Souls board game in here, just because, I mean, the From Software games just are, I mean, all horrific and grotesque. So this one definitely works, I think.
Yep. So that's my honorable mention. Just barely missed it, just because, I mean, there's other card games that are coming that'll show, have a little more depth into it and stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My number 10 is one that's going to be on every single person's list who does this, unless they for some reason just hate this game. But even then, I feel like it would be, they'd just actively be not putting it on this list because for that reason alone. But I thought it was actually going to be higher, and I think my number 10 for this is similar to my first one, in that it's actually based on the scenario. So that is Mansions of Madness, 2nd edition. Now, I'm not denying anything about the app. The atmosphere that this game brings out is 100% like you're immersive and you are getting into the theme. But what's also interesting is that I feel like the horror aspect of this game is either elevated based off the theme the scenario that you pick. Because some are really just more like, there's one where it's just kind of like more Indiana Jones type, which is still horrific because it's like snake people that are like hunting you down. And then others are just kind of like a whodunit. Like, I don't have any Sherlock Holmes games on this, even though you could theoretically say, yeah, I mean, murder is pretty horrific, but But yeah, this one, whenever you pick that right scenario, the one where it is about like maniacs chasing you throughout the house, or you're being hunted in like a city by a group of like human sea creature people that are trying to like capture you and turn you into one of them. The sound effects, I don't think it does it. No, this app does not read anything out to you. Does it? I didn't think so. But the ambiance of just the music that's playing the entire time, it's, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if you're going for the traditional horror route, I mean, I'd say this would be a lot of people's number one. I put this at number 10 just because of the way I took this list. I wanted to be a little bit different. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be in any of these scenarios. they would all suck. But yeah, so this one is just fantastic. I'm pretty sure they're done.
Sorry.
Like, oh, you're good. I'm pretty sure that they're done supporting this. Which,
I think so. I bet their next route, if they do anything, will just be coming out with more scenarios.
Yeah.
On the way.
God, I really hope they don't do a 3rd edition. Like, this is already clean cut. There's no reason for them to.
Never say never. It's Fantasy Flight, though.
That's true. I mean, but I don't think Arkham Horror 3rd edition is doing as well as they hoped. So they might just. I can actually see them doing Eldritch Horror 2nd edition before doing anything with this one.
I would agree with that.
So yeah, that is my number 10.
Awesome. Yeah, this was a good choice. My number 10 is I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not.
It's like all of my games. It's just more on that later.
All right. So I told you the list is gonna go fast. Now, my number 10 is a game I don't think you like, and it's from a company that's kind of either you love them or you hate them. I tend to like their stuff. It does traditional Gothic horror. There's a deck building version of this game that I like much better than this game. But when you're talking about horror theme, then this one's the one I go for.
Yep,
and that is A Touch of Evil.
This is a good one. I haven't played this one.
Oh, you haven't played this one?
I have not played A Touch of Evil. Wait, I might have played a little bit of it at Gen Con a couple years back, like a quick demo, but that doesn't really count.
Well, I have this 10-year anniversary edition. It has all the big plastic pieces, like terrain and everything. It's pretty sweet. We'll have to play it sometime.
Okay.
It's but it's got your typical flying frog, the roll and move stuff. But that you can play this game 2 different ways. You can play it competitively, or cooperatively, which cooperatively is the best way, obviously. But what it is you're going to have one big supernatural monster thing, and you're walking around this village, and you're trying to figure out where his lair is, and then you're doing all this like searching around, and then once you find this deal, you have this epic showdown, dice chucking, you're battling, trying to kill this person. But you just get a lot of story out of this game. It's like this is one that you just like that picture, like all those plastic things, like the houses and the windmill and all that stuff. Those are just tokens in the game. So those are all this is the 10th anniversary edition with plastic tokens and all that jazz too.
It gives a Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
It does a little bit, that whole gothic horror stuff. I need to get the expansions for it. I don't have those yet, but
the 10th anniversary didn't come with it.
No, this is just base game. But the expansions aren't going to change. I mean, it all integrates. It's the same cards, same art, all that jazz.
Yeah.
I think this just came with the plastic features and stuff like that. It's pretty much the same deal. But yeah, what the expansions will add, like heroes, they'll add other monsters and stuff. But this is just one of those fun games. You kind of go around and you're just searching, and you get that fear, because I kind of felt that way a little bit. It's not even remotely close to Fury of Dracula, but like when you find Dracula, you have those battles, like this one, when you find him though, it's like you're battling until the end. It's like, and But this is a fun one to do, and it has, I mean, like I said, the art. I tend to like it for what it's worth. Like, yeah, it's not great, but if you take it into account that that's what this company does for the most part, and just take it kind of with that grain of salt, it's a neat little.
Yeah, except in Shadows of Brimstone, that's actual.
Yeah, Shadows of Brimstone was the first original
actual art.
Yeah, because Fortune and Glory and this and the zombie one, whatever that one was.
Oh yeah,
Last Man on Earth or whatever it's called. But anyway, but yeah, so this one's a good one. It's just get your traditional Halloween stuff, Headless Horseman, Dracula, stuff like this.
Yep. Yeah, this is like, oh yeah, Last Night on Earth, that is what it's called. Yeah, this is, definitely your kind of Halloween game.
Yep, for sure. That's my number 10.
All right. My number 9, this is one that is definitely more realistic, like horrifying. I feel that if I were to be someone like this, so an idiot, then this actually might be higher because I'd have some probably grasp of like comparison for it. But other than that, this one still gets me. Like it's it can be pretty terrifying if you really get into like the headspace. And so my number 9 is Subterra. Subterra is a game about basically spelunking, or if you've ever seen the movie The Descent, then it's that as a board game. And there's just something about that, like, because this game could be like, all bouged up. It could have had minis, it could have had, a bunch of different like actual plastic, but it doesn't. And yet it still invokes that horrific feel, like of you going down, getting stuck in a cavern, and you have to find the exit. So highly recommend The Descent, because I feel like actually watching that movie kind of like amplifies this as a game, because you have something to go off of. So I mean, because you can have poisonous gas, you can have cave-ins, you immediately split up, you get like tight crevices, which just increases the claustrophobia kind of part. And then the game has one of the best kind of endings where if your deck runs out, it's not just over like almost every other game. It's your batteries, like it's like in every horror movie where they have a flashlight for some, like no one owns a flashlight anymore, first of all. Like
they pull their cell phones up.
Yeah, it's your cell phone, but like the flashlight has that gimmick where it's like for some reason the batteries are never full. So you turn on, they start going out, and then they're like hitting it. This has that feel as you're like trying to bolt, and you can keep surviving. You roll a die. I think you need a 5 or a 6 each time, and if you don't get it, then you're just grabbed up, and that's it, and then you're out. Yeah, this one, I remember seeing this years ago, and I was like, that doesn't look great. But then I was like, you know what? I'll just give it a shot, and it's been in my collection ever since. I find it horrifying because I think spelunking and all that shit is ridiculous, especially with water. No, thank you. Like not even a little bit. Like you could not give. This is one of those professions where the experts die.
Yep.
Your experts should not be dying. So yeah, so that's my number 9, Subterra. And
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I don't think Subterra 2 is ever coming out.
I don't even know how much. I want to play that. Like the theme of that to me doesn't. I mean, I know there's changes, but the theme to me for this game seems to be more creeping it down my line than running from lava.
I played a demo years ago at Gen Con of what Subterra 2 was like, and it was more about kind of more your Indiana Jones, get in, get the relic, and get out. But lava is encroaching up on you. But I'm 100% certain I'm pretty sure he ran out of money, and he didn't like give up, and he wasn't just like, oh, sorry guys. But I think he's just trying alternate ways to get it completed. So hopefully he does. I mean, I'd like to see it come through, but that might be
this game definitely messes with your phobias.
Yeah.
If you,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'm a claustrophobic. I don't like being in tight spots. So
Right. So imagine
yeah.
having to run from creatures and like try and squeeze through
Right.
crevice. And for me, it's not even really that because I'm not claustrophobic, but like if I was in this scenario and I had to swim in unknown water, nah, I think I'd rather just be eaten alive.
Yep, that's another one of mine too. So
Yeah. So I mean, so yeah, that's just my number 9.
yeah. All
So
right. Sweet.
this one could have been higher, like for me, for sure. But
Right.
I think the other ones just kind of they do kind of the same thing in feel, but I think the atmosphere comes out a little bit better. But this one's
Yeah.
really solid. Highly recommend it.
All right. Well, my number 9 is a game that was pretty highly regarded on my lists for a long time, and it's still on my top 100. It's just I haven't played it a whole lot lately, just because it's kind of a bear to get like out and play, and I play it solo, and it deals with like European horror stuff. Like they don't take the traditional Americanized horror; they go with the European Gothic horror stuff.
I know what it is now.
Yeah, and it's Folklore the Affliction.
I almost picked this. This was considered.
Yeah, this one it shows its like design age a little bit, I think. But I still I enjoy it. It's a good in-depth role-playing game style adventure game, but you get a lot of these different stories and stuff going through it with pretty decent storytelling. The very first scenario, you're dealing with werewolves, and then you go in and you start doing other stuff. This is one of those games, I think we've said this before in discussing it, that this would be one that if it had the
Descent,
Legends of the Dark thing layered on top of it, that it would take a lot of that micromanaging stuff out of this game. I think that would make this a lot better. Yeah.
If they went on Kickstarter for this isn't the second edition, right? They don't have it is the second edition?
Yeah. Because the first edition, I didn't back the first edition. And then when they came out with the second edition with all the extra stuff, that's when I finally started jumping in.
Gotcha. I guess they don't classify it as a second. I guess it was a second printing.
Well,
which
yeah.
I guess would be kind of different, but yeah,
they sell second edition updated rules as well. Stuff. So
yeah, if they went on and did like Folklore the Affliction and they had worked on it with the team to develop a website or an app, oh my god, yeah, I would jump all over that.
Just doing all the travel events and being able to do the skirmishes and different stuff like that. The stories that this is on this list just because it's a horrific world that you're traveling through. If you decide, even when you're on the road and you're traveling, shit could happen. But if you decide to go off road and do those off road events, it gets kind of hairy.
This is one that I think actually could amplify a lot better if you have a DM style person helping run it,
right?
Person who can kind of ramp up those skirmishes and make a story thing instead of just being like, okay, we have a skirmish and then let's all roll our dice and stuff. Yeah, if he could, because the dice system is also pretty rough. You're basically failing almost every time. Like you and that could be alleviated if you have someone who can kind of help run it. I know they have don't they have a RPG DM book, like a create your own?
They do. Yeah, where you can create your own junk. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like if someone was helping do that, I think that could actually make this really good, because you're right, the world is awesome for this. I love the European folklore for it and the unique characters that you just don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, so that's why I have everything for this game and I keep a hold of it. Like I said, I haven't played it probably a year and a half, but I keep a hold of it just in case there's some sort of a thing that makes it a little more streamlined.
This one we saw the company at Gen Con, and all their games have really cool themes. Like I like a lot of their games, and I was even a friend of mine, he actually bought their minis because they were selling their minis box for like $100. He bought that to use in D&D. Like,
Right.
and the lady was trying to talk him up on buying the rest of it. And even then I was like, I was kind of hoping he did, because I was like, I'd play it like again but I just don't want to own it.
Hmm.
So, but he's like not interested. He's like, I just want the minis, lady.
Yeah. Well, speaking about the minis, this is one of the first games I noticed that's on the bottom of the minis. It actually says what
Oh my God,
it
I
is.
know.
So like if you're like, oh, look for this hoopty hoo or whatever the hell you look at, oh, there's a hoopty hoo. I didn't know what
Yeah.
those look like,
And they show the actual mini on the card. Like
right.
not because some games do it where it's like, is that's not the same one, but this one it's like,
Right.
oh yeah, that looks like the one on the card.
And then the other thing I like that this company did was, you get these big box of minis in that tray. Then they have a little piece of paper, a printed piece of paper that's like set on top that shows exactly where every mini is supposed to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not
More and
sitting
more companies are
guessing.
doing that, but this one was ahead of its time. So
Yeah.
So yeah, this one is kind of one that I should like for all intents and purposes, but it's too much as a board game.
It is. Yeah. It's too drawn out and technical.
Yeah.
It could be a lot more
Yeah,
streamlined.
it's almost like they wanted to make an RPG, but didn't, and made a board game instead. And it's like, this didn't translate as well. It's a little too fiddly with a bunch of little shit. But yeah, good pick. I think this is an awesome one.
That'll work.
All right. So my number 8, this is one I thought about doing Dark Souls as well, but I kind of almost went for games that I enjoy, and I didn't even think about the card game. But this game was one that I absolutely love. If I was going off just this theme alone, this would be my number 1, because this is my favorite video game, and this is I was gonna say my favorite board game. It's not my favorite board game. I think it's a really good board game, and the atmosphere is just awesome for it, and that is Bloodborne, the board game. Funny enough, we were just talking about folklore that is about European folklore. This is Victorian Gothic era Lovecraft. Like Bloodborne does have that. Okay, we're dealing with horrors, and you need what's it called? I can't remember the actual.
You're dealing with horrors or horrors?
Horrors. Well, there are actually prostitutes in the game that are NPC characters, and they give you their blood, and that heals you. Yeah, I could actually go on, because those NPCs have like their own storyline and stuff, and it's pretty messed up. But yeah, so this is, if you're not familiar with the lore of Bloodborne, in short, people took blood from the church that would heal them, but it was corrupted elder blood that started morphing them into abominations. Hunters were created, and there was there were nights where the hunters go out and start killing beasts. That's kind of like a very quick overview of at least the beginning of the game. This is obviously Victoria. You want to go to the next picture?
Oh yeah, sorry.
You hate me. All right, well, that doesn't leave much to the imagination, but we'll go with it. I mean, still, like, all the monsters you're fighting, kind of like what you were talking about with Dark Souls, all the monsters you're fighting are horrendous. Even actual hunters they turn into werewolves, or these beasts that have been morphed by blood. You use blood to heal yourself. I mean, this is such an awesome theme. I think what's very strange about this, and you can tell just totally different game designs, is like with this one, it feels very CMON-ish. Like, okay, you can tell CMON designed this game just the way it works. I think they did an awesome job working with Sony because a lot of the stuff you do in this game for the scenarios aren't in the video game, but I think that's actually to its benefit that they didn't just try and translate the video game to this, because this actually warrants justification. You get different stories that I would assume, working with Sony, have been greenlit to be lore or canon. So you have a lot of stuff to do. You have a lot of side quests. The gameplay is amazing because it's not dice driven or anything. It's all based off your cards and your deck building. But what's fascinating is when you get to the bosses, which every From Software game, that's what it's almost about, is its bosses. It has to look the most boring in the world because you barely move. It's really just all in the card play. The boss stands there, you stand there. Occasionally you get pushed, or occasionally you move. But in the Dark Souls board game, there was actual skirmishing. The enemy moves, you have to maneuver around it. So I feel like in terms of boss fights, the Dark Souls board game actually has this beat, because it actually does feel like the video game of you maneuver around the battlefield and having to fight it. But this one is more quick and streamlined. That it's still not bad, but it is just, okay, let me see what its card's doing. Let me see what I can do to counter that, and try and outmaneuver and not get one shot. So it's serviceable for this, but yeah, there is something a little bit when you're fighting a boss, especially a boss I really like, and be like, yeah, I'm really just kind of standing there, like not doing anything. It's all imagination. Right. But yeah, this one, Bloodborne, is just awesome for its theme, and I really think it does come out whenever you're reading all the lore cards. So yeah, that's my number 8, Bloodborne.
All right, good choice. All right, my number 8 is another game from a company I've already talked about. Roll and Move.
Oh, okay.
I own so much of this game that it takes up just shelves and shelves and shelves of crap.
I finally got to see that shelf.
And that is Shadows Brimstone.
Yeah.
This one is in here.
It. Old West horror game.
Yeah. This is just one of those games that has unlimited amounts of stuff that can happen. I mean, especially if you went down the rabbit hole and owned pretty much everything they've ever released monster wise, because you have these decks that are huge of monsters, so you never know what's going to pop out. And you just get this feeling, because pretty much you're just going to pick a scenario. There's this huge amount of scenarios to choose from, and you dive into the mines, and then portals are going to pop up, shit's going to come out of the portals, and you're just going to have all kinds of craziness, whether it's minis that come out that are 15 inches tall compared to your normal little minis, or if you're just going to get swarmed by a bunch of little stuff, you're chucking fistfuls of dice. This one's probably more of a role-playing game than any of the other ones on this list, mainly because you actually have a paper that you keep track of all your mutations, your money. I mean, it's like a role-playing game sheet that you're keeping track of everything. And as you're going, I mean, yeah, this is just a bad situation right here. Because
just throw a stick of dynamite.
I know. Well, that's my character. I always play my Mexican bandito named Paco El Taco.
Yeah.
And he likes to throw dynamite and stuff, but it's just, you're just chucking so many dice, because you have that whole roll to hit mechanism in this too. So you have to roll to hit, and then you roll for your damage and all that jazz and everything. And there's just so much crap with this game, and so many worlds that you can dive into. I haven't even hardly touched the feudal Japan.
Yeah, you have it all, don't you?
Oh yeah, I have all that stuff. And I have that next Kickstarter is going to be here probably in the next year.
There was another one.
Yeah, it's called Shadows of Brimstone Adventures.
Oh, geez.
It's all like the Valhalla and Spanish Inquisition and all this.
Dang.
Stuff. So I mean, there's just so much crap. I mean, this is those games that me and the two Chads, we all go get all this stuff, and then we take 2 days off of work, and we just sit there and put minis together in my basement. It's just a fun thing. But yeah, this one, I mean, if you name it, it's got it in this for horror. I mean, for that kind of horror, it's a lot of Cthulhu-y, tentacly, satanic kind of crap.
Yeah. I would imagine the feudal Japan would be more Oni and demons and stuff.
It is, and it has the big, like, 13-inch mini that comes with it is this big. It's the Dragon King, and he's this big, like, dragon serpent that you put together and everything. But then I've also got the Oni Warlord that's
dope
in that set. And then I remember that big skeleton guy I showed you, like that huge skeleton.
Yeah. Oh, that's coming out of the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of that Asian stuff too. So, but yeah, I mean, when you get a scenario, when you pull one of those epic bad guys and they come out onto the board, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there's unending possibilities with this, and it's just, you feel kind of, especially when you get surrounded, it's just crazy and stuff. So monsters everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you cared anything about me, you would bring this up so we can play it.
Jiminy Christmas! There's no way I'd have to rent a U-Haul.
No, you wouldn't. You have a hatchback. Your car could fit it, and it's all in totes.
Well, and it'll barely.
It's actually I feel like this is actually one of the easier ones to convert because you have it so organized.
It would barely fit on your table. Like
put everything on there. Because you keep them by the table, and then because it's like, oh hey, we're going to this world, then you find it.
Yeah, I have this whole card unit that's stacking card unit that has, because there's got to be maybe close to 100 decks of cards that you have to go through at any period of time and stuff to pull stuff out of, depending on your world. And it's crazy, but
you get it played.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I have three different things going right now, but anyway, that is my number 8, Shadows of Brimstone.
All right, my number 7. This one was one I was actually not sure it was going to go onto the list, but it does have that overall dark, grim world that would just be an everlasting presence of fear, I think, while also being an incredible game. And I think the writing of this game amplifies everything about it more so than some others, and that is Tainted Grail. The Fall of Avalon, still to this day, Awakened Realms' best game. They're actually about to go on. No, they are already on Kickstarter or GameFound again for more content, and I haven't even fucking beat the base game. Like, I have so much content for this, but that's just great for me personally, just because I can just keep coming back to it. And yeah, this one is basically a dark twist on the Arthurian legend with King Arthur. Shit hit the fan. His knights and his team are missing, most likely dead, but missing. And they you play as like their what do they call it, apprentices, or however you knew them. That's who you are, and you are going out and search for them. But the world is this very dark and decrepit landscape where just what they call weirdness is surrounding. That's kind of like what the where the cards aren't. That's kind of it's supposed to thematically represent some mystical, shadowed realm almost, that just kind of morphs and destroys anything it touches. And these men here that are these giant beacons that you light with like magic and some materials push that back, but they're slowly fading. They don't last forever, and that would just suck like the most, if like you can't even enjoy any day because you're always stressed out about oh my god, these fucking things are going out. Like, you can just see the flame dimming as time goes on. But yeah, this one has just so much writing to it. I don't even know who they got, but other companies need to find their person, because sometimes the writing for these campaign games is piss poor. And it's like it's like the way you write dialogue reminds people it's really hard to write dialogue. It's kind of how some games are, and this one is not that at all. You have so much, it's just everywhere you go is depressing. Right. And kind of like the From Software games, Bloodborne and Dark Souls, it's just a world that you would never want to live in, because it's just like, okay, time to leave my door, and oh, this decaying bear is out there waiting for me and just attacks me. And then the people also, like enemies, like humanoids that you come across, are all just horrendous. Think zombie apocalypse people. That's kind of how everyone you come across is. And it's all in I was gonna say high fantasy, but it's not high fantasy. Whatever the Arthurian legend is, and just turn that on its head, is what this game is. So yeah, that's my number 7.
Yeah, the art and stuff on this is really cool. I wish I would have gotten into it more. It was just
now.
I know, but I had everything for the first part. I just
did you? Oh
Yeah, I just got rid of it because there was not any way I was going to have the time to get through that stuff,
Yeah, you got rid of Seventh Continent, right?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one took that same concept and just I think they made it better. Like what Seventh Citadel is supposed to be, I think that's gonna be kind of like what this is, but with their world.
Right.
So yeah, this one's fantastic. Like I quit doing the main campaign solo because the only tedious part about this is those menhirs. But like having a second person is it just makes it that much better, and you get to share in the story. So yeah, this is at my number 7, just because along with all the other ones, even though some of them might technically be more horror atmospheric, I think this one, just the writing and everything you're doing, makes you feel like you're in this world, and that's not a world you want to feel like you're in.
No, not at all. All right, so my number 7 is a game that I believe will be on your list. At least I hope it will. And it is a game that I own everything for after playing it with you. And it's a lot of content.
It is. God.
I've got so much in that. I was talking about getting rid of this because I was never going to get through it. This other game, for Christ's sake. That's Arkham Horror, the card game.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, for every reason, and pretty much anything Arkham Horror could probably be, I mean, anything Lovecraft could be on this list, for very different reasons.
It's true. It'd be a top 10 Lovecraft games.
Right. This one just has so much, and in the different locations around the world that you play in, and the different heaps of shit you have to go through these scenarios, and it's
writing
just,
in this is fantastic too.
Yeah, and so many cards and deck building possibilities, which I like that anyway. That's why this puts this up so high. But then just this takes what the Lord of the Rings card game did and just injected so much more theme, and then the whole spatial stuff too, because you're actually laying down cards to travel throughout this wherever house or wherever and stuff, and it really matters where your standee is at, when you're doing different things and everything. And it's just nuts. And they're just keep the new release structure is awesome. When
I know.
They just release one big box of all the investigators, one big box of all the campaign.
Yes.
Those stupid packs all the time.
Don't know why it took them so long to do that, but better late than never.
Pretty smart.
And this one, I feel like, unlike maybe Cthulhu Death May Die or Mansions, I think almost every scenario is horrific in some way. I mean, hell, even the base one, like the very first one where you're just in your home and you're like, it reads out like this, like, because it even tells you kind of like how your character is feeling, where you hear like some scratching and you're like, what the fuck is that? And then like this not portal, but like this hole opens up and these rat creatures are crawling out. It's like, oh hey, there's a picture.
Right. Well, and then you get that little bit of horror injected into it also by whenever you are doing checks and stuff, you're pulling out of that bag, and that if you pull that one horrible chip, man, you're screwed. And so you have that kind of not horror, but that nervous
suspense,
suspense, just to try to get in there. And it's this one. I could play this game for freaking 10 years, and I'm probably not gonna get through everything, just because it takes forever. There's so much crap. And it's
choice based too.
And I'm on my third artist case for this game now.
I have 3 as well. Marvel Champions is getting there. I could probably do with a third one, but
I just got a third one for Champions too.
This is one of the few that I actually kind of upgraded. I upgraded the bag. I upgraded the tokens, because pulling cardboard tokens from a bag is disgusting. Like anytime that happens, it's like, okay, time to immediately upgrade these. So I have these like metal bottomed piece, but they're like glass beaded with the icons in the middle, and they're just so sexy to pull from.
Mine are all etched wood, like flame etched.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one too. And so for words of advice, go to Etsy. If you want to upgrade any of your games, Etsy most likely has it. Like people are amazing. So yeah, this one is more on this later, I guess. Like 100%. So yeah, good choice. My number 6 is a game I hate, but I could not, with in all good conscience, not put this on this list because it does horror just so well. And I was talking about Tainted Grail being like a world you don't want to live in. This one, I'd probably, if I woke up and was in this world, I'd be like, nope, and just cut my own throat.
Just shoot myself. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. But this one does a lot. It's not as high because it doesn't, you have to do a lot of the research yourself to really get what the world is, which is a detriment to the game. But if you can find that, or if you have a friend who really likes it and he did all that research, then you could just be content with that. My number 6 is Kingdom Death Monster. Yeah. I mean, this this one is grotesque. Probably like, I mean, this would be like gore porn, like the board game, just because you're cutting off dick heads and stringing up nipples to make weapons, and you're just doing a bunch of weird shit. Yeah, it's a bolus. Yeah, so the lore is that you wake up with your other survivors, basically naked and in darkness, and basically everyone finds lanterns. That's your only source of light, and you stumble across it's like a shard, and then you fight a white lion. That's everyone's first fight. And these fights are rough. Your people, like, the biggest mistake you can make is getting attached to your characters. They are not this is not an RPG, even though it has RPG elements. I'm not going to go into all my negatives about this game. I do truly hate this game, but the atmosphere and the lore and the feeling you get when you're fighting these creatures is top notch. Like, I mean, in terms of boss fights, there's just almost none that are better just yet. There's now like 3 or 4 games that are coming out as boss battlers. So it's like, yay, finally. But yeah, you're like, I mean, this antelope right here, you're like, oh, that's just a very roided out antelope, until you realize that it has a mouth all the way down its stomach, and there's a way, it has cards and traps that your character could just be grabbed and eaten by this thing like antelope, and that's it. So your character's just dead. And so people are a resource in this game, but you do have settlement choices. You can go more survivalist, where you're just all about brutality and like you're as tribal as they come, or you can try and be more nurturing and raise up a community. There's a lot that this game has going for it, a lot that it has going against it, but the things that are going for, it's the most despairing thing. It's like, this game has a 10 out of 10 theme and lore and creatures and boss fights, and then so much other stuff that are like ones. So it's not for everyone, for sure. But if you're looking at a dark, grisly, horrific world that has anime-esque really cool things, there's a character, a Nemesis, that you fight. It's just the Butcher, and he just runs around. He wields 2 fucking cleavers, and he just slice and dices you up and put your body parts on him. Another creature, but there's another character in Nemesis called the Hand, and he's like this godlike being that shows up, and when you fight him, you have 2 ways of beating him. You can either survive his entire deck, which he's sitting there and he's like, man, you actually like you lived, applause, and he's like appreciative of you. But if you actually hit him, then you can actually kind of piss him off, and all he does that anime like quickly pulls out his blade, because whoever does that, I'm pretty sure just gets killed. So that kind of stuff that is in this game is awesome, but oh boy, does it also cost a lot of money. So yeah, I had to put it on this list. Like, there's no way I couldn't. It's grotesque, and the art that they do have in the rule books are highly detailed. And I mean, if you like a lot of dicks and boobies, then this game's for you. That's my number 6, KDM. Luckily,
Right.
I have a friend who is going to be getting everything for this, and I still play it, even though I despise it. I think a lot of it had to do with, once again, how much money you put into it. So not my money anymore, so I can just go in and get engrossed in this world, and yeah, still have a good time.
It works.
Kind of like Shadows of Brimstone. Hey, I didn't pay all that money for it, so I can just enjoy it if Brad ever lets me play it.
I've put several thousand into my Shadows of Brimstone collection.
Yeah,
so it's nuts. All right, so my number 6 is a game that I talk about often, whether it's on different lists. It's based on a book series, Alternate Reality World War II.
Yep. I this one is not on my list because I knew you were going to put it on.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
This one was one of the early ones I thought about putting on here. And
it's at number 6. That's interesting.
Yeah,
normally the ones you think of the first time is higher up.
Well, because I thought of a lot of games as soon as you said this list. Like there was from here down were ones that were just like just automatics,
Yeah.
But anyway, Fireteam Zero. This one, having the World War II theme behind it, you wouldn't think it'd be too much like that. But then, just this, when you play it, this one does kind of the double thing, and the reason it's kind of ahead of these other ones so far is there's a lot of crazy ass monsters that come in with this anyway, but then that impending dread of just wave after wave after wave of this stuff coming because they move so fast, and you don't know where they're going to respawn because you rolled the monster spawn dice. They could pop up right behind you. They could be, it's just, you just don't know. And there's that whole feeling of doom, and the monsters get a little stronger the further down that you go to. They get more abilities, and now since I bought all that extra junk off of you, I have all the stuff now.
Yep.
So it is kind of nuts when you start looking at the stuff. And I know it's hard to tell with those miniatures, but like this is the back of the miniature, even though it's a person facing forward, because it's like the creature has come out and everything. So like the person's faced this way, but the monsters come out this way, and you just go through, and it's got that whole grotesque mini thing. Not as bad as KDM, but
there's something about humans being like morphed into these kind of creatures that's just like, oh god.
Yeah, and the thing I did with this game, I don't think you can do it now because I think the website is completely gone. But I saved them before that happened, is they had all these MP3 files on there that had the recordings of like the mission run through, and like this when you're halfway through the mission and you're going to the next scenario, there's all these like radio frequency discussions, and it's recorded, and I have them on my phone that I can play with them and stuff, and it just adds a little bit. And this is one of those that came with a CD that you can play, and it has music for each scenario that you can bond. That's kind of stupid because the scenarios last longer than songs, so I generally put something on my phone, but
with Mellow Dice as a website now.
So this is just like, it's a fast paced, because you can only move so far, but those guys like the forest area, it's terrain, so you have to spend like 2 movement points to get through a deal, and they just beeline, like the terrain does not slow down the bad guys, so you just get totally surrounded fast, and it's just a lot of stuff happening all at once. The multi-use cards is one of the really big things of this that makes this game, because you can play the bottom half of a card to help a teammate, and in the top half of the card you can use for yourself. Your hand is also your life. Your deck and all that's your life. So it's like there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with this, and I like war games, and then they throw in the horror on top of that as well.
This is one that I might actually look into the book series. I think the
book series I bet's pretty cool.
Yeah. This is definitely a good one. Like it was definitely considered. But I was like, I want to talk about different games. I know he's gonna put it on here. I don't think it would still quite make my list. Like it wouldn't beat out Cthulhu Death May Die, and that was my number 11. So therefore, this wouldn't be on here. But yeah, this one just kind of like your Eldritch Abominations, but also not quite feeling. This feels kind of like more Metro.
Well, and they have all these different monster families that you get. So like each family has different minions, like different layers of their minions and cat and stuff, and one big bad guy with each one of them. And it's just, it's a shame that the company went under. They did this second Kickstarter.
Hell, I was even trying to, like, while you were talking, I was trying to find out if there was any forums on this company. There's like nothing. I don't know. They just totally
went out.
Yeah, radio silence.
Yep.
Which I guess is horrific in its own way.
Yep, I guess maybe they got swallowed into hell with the.
All these demons are real. Those books are what do they call them? Nonfiction. So
right.
it's like,
right.
Oh man, is anyone like reading this? Like this is all happening. All right, good choice. My number 5 is our first crossover, and this one
wasn't it? Oh no, we've said. Never mind. You're right.
Like what?
Well, no, we've said wait till later. So
yeah, it's our first official crossover.
Yes.
Yeah, you had me. I'm like, wait a minute, what you talking
I had to look back at mine too. I was like, okay,
yeah. And you actually, we almost shared the same number, but I like this game a little bit more than you because I've also played probably just a little bit more, not too much though. I'm very far behind, and that is Arkham Horror.
Oh, you're further. I think you're further than me on this for sure.
I am on the 4th one.
I'm only on the 2nd one. So.
Okay, because it goes if you count the base game, which I do. Night of the Zealot, Dunwich Horror, Path of Carcosa, and then I think Forgotten Age. That's the one.
Okay, never mind. I'm on the 3rd one, Carcosa.
You're on the Path to Carcosa. That one's trippy. That one actually has a really that one kind of has a little bit more ebbs and flows of this one's really good. This one's kind of, but I think one of those. So this one, I was kind of trying to describe why this one is higher up than say Cthulhu Death May Die, because you can feel like a total badass in this game, but I think there's just so much more going on. The fact that you have these enemies that are running after you, the fact that you have treacheries and events that also that you, even though you can just run in and wipe out, like my character was Roland Banks and I just had a trench coat of weapons just and pulling out shotguns and stuff. Yeah, I could run in and shotgun that flesh eater down in one hit, but then my character was so fucked up from sanity that I had to just drink myself into a stupor. So this one just does way better storytelling than Cthulhu Death May Die. So that's kind of this, and Mansions of Madness. Mansions of Madness, I feel, yes, it's obviously Lovecraft, but I feel like it's kind of like the black sheep. Like it doesn't quite, it's not the same as Eldritch Horror or Arkham Horror or even Cthulhu Death May Die. So I feel like it's a little bit different. This took the spot of Eldritch Horror because I feel like it's more personal. There's a lot more storytelling. Eldritch is more global, which Eldritch could have been on this list, but I think this game just does it better. Yeah, and there's one scenario that I want to say it's in Path to Carcosa that where you go to a psych ward, and it's just that's a theme that's not touched on a whole lot. Where like lunatic asylums and stuff like that is just. When people go to those places in horror movies or in video games, I'm immediately like uncomfortable. And that scenario did a really good job. So you kind of talked about the suspense of pulling from the bag. What I was going to also tack on was the fact that your character can take traumas, like personal traumas, that they're not in forms of cards or anything, or they might be. They go into your deck, but yeah, you can start out with personal permanent sanity and health damage, and that gets pretty rough. So yeah, everything you said about this is I agree with. So that's my number 5.
All right, good choice. Well, my number 5 is our second crossover.
Let's see. Probably Mansions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mansions of Madness. So just kind of like what we were saying. I mean, the only thing I would add on is like the thing with this game that I try to do, if at all possible, when I play it, is get the sound up on like my television, like project, get the stuff up on the TV, and have the table close to the TV. That way, can be seen by anybody else playing. That everybody gets that sound. You kind of have the lights down a little bit, get that ambiance in it a little bit more. And but yeah, this was kind of the game that.
Oh, this is the first edition.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, because of those cards in the middle. Yeah, I was sitting here, I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell if you're.
Funny enough, though, yeah, it is hard to tell because I was sitting here like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but so anyway, but yeah, the cool thing with going from the first to the second is a lot of those minis up in the top would have been the ones that came in like the suppressed memories and shared dreams or whatever the packs you could get for second edition that were updated, so that sell for like $350 a box now.
I might sell them. Like I hate the minis in this game. I think they're actually really, really bad. I would much rather have the cardboard tokens.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about streamlined and efficiency, those things suck.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So this one, like everything you said, you get that feeling. It's scenario based, so you can kind of pick and choose. There's that whole, just like a lot of Cthulhu or Lovecraft games, there's that whole deal with insanity. I mean, when you go insane, you have those crazy things that can happen. Like, didn't you say you take that fire card out?
I take the pyromancy card out because it's only there for shock value. The first time you get it, it's immediately annoying. And ever since, whenever someone does it, when they just start walking off and lighting fires, you're like, okay, I know exactly what they're doing. I'm gonna go kill them.
Right.
It sucks. I fucking hate that card.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Eldritch Horror, which I've never come across because there's so much. But I remember seeing what that card was, where it resets. You haven't played Eldritch Horror, have you?
No, I've never played.
So you're trying to fulfill like clue cards, and I think you have to fulfill 3 if I'm not mistaken. And they're long, like they're difficult to get, but there's an event that you can just top deck that says, oh, put all the clues you got away, and it's like, no. that was 2 hours of getting that done. Fuck that. So sometimes they just make mistakes by putting that in that one card. Or maybe that's a gimmick now by Fantasy Flight. Like, we're gonna have one card that no one likes.
Yeah, so this one's just a great one. Like you said, I think they're pretty much done with it. It's just a matter of if they want to keep throwing more scenarios out on the app and stuff. But this was one of those that took, because the app for this was really good, but then they've kept building upon this app.
Lord of the Rings is better as an app. Descent, I think, is its best. Don't be wrong. If they came out with Mansions of Madness 3rd edition and they were doing the Descent Legends of the Dark app, like, I would be like, okay, well, 2nd edition is obsolete. And I would jump all over that. I don't think they have to. This game is so clean that they could easily, if they did an expansion, if they just did, it's like, hey, now we have Mansions of Madness with this Descent Legends of the Dark app. And then they could pump more content that way. That's what I would do. And that I don't see any reason why that couldn't work, why they couldn't make that work. So, I agree. Here's hoping.
All right.
Well, Fantasy Flight only makes 3 games. I mean, what else are they going to do?
Exactly.
All right. My number 4 is a game I'm not sure you have played, although I feel like you would be all over it. It would take a certain amount of people. I play Max 4. That's where this game really shines. And it's a blatant ripoff of an IP, but somehow they're not sued. And that is Nemesis.
I have not played it.
Okay, Nemesis is your aliens game. This is like the intruders is what they call it. But yeah, you have the fact that you are on your ship, the Nemesis, and you wake up and there's a dead body right in front of you. So it's I mean, Alien and Aliens is their horror films, and that's exactly what this is. As you're traversing, you want to go to the next picture, please?
Yep.
As you are traversing the ship, like you're making noise, and eventually noise attracts these intruders that just crawl out of the ducts and crawl and follow up behind you. And then it's just a mad dash of you trying to fulfill your objective. But also at the same time, you know that at the same time that all these people that you woke up with, oh, they have corporate objectives. Well, that kind of sucks. So you have that traitor element that may or may not be the case, and that just amplifies the suspense and the horror of this. I mean, just this one just really feels like the Alien movies, and the first one for sure, where you don't quite know what's happening and where these creatures are coming from. You're like, okay, I know I heard someone run down to the comms room earlier and they created noise. That's what the yellow tokens are. Well, I guess I'll go into the monitoring room, and then you run in there and create noise, and then all of a sudden this creature is behind you, and they're hard to kill. They are very hard to kill. Not impossible to kill, but they are hard. So, and then all of a sudden, like, you can really just get into this as you see someone running towards you and you're like, oh, thank God they're going to come help me. And then they're a traitor, and then they like shut the door on you and you're locked in there with it. It's so good. Like, this game sucks at max players. It is way too long, but I found the sweet spot to be 4. You could even really do 3, but 4 is I think the perfect player count. Enough going on. There's enough for everyone to do, and the game goes quickly enough that everyone's involved the entire time. But yeah, just waking up from hypersleep, seeing your captain dead, and then try mad dash to try and get to escape pods or do whatever your objective needs to do. This one really amplifies that horror. So that is my number 4, Nemesis.
Yeah, I need to try this sometime. We need to put it on the list, because I keep seeing it. I keep wanting to try it, but
yeah,
I don't want to spend all the money on it since enough's come out now. It's a small fortune.
It technically has a solo variant, but don't bother.
Oh no.
Like, yeah, it is on the list. I still have our past list written down, so it's on here.
Perfect. All right. Well, my number 4 is another one I think might be on your list, maybe. It is a game that I learned because I played so many games of it in preparation for demoing it at a convention, and it's mainly on here. It's mainly the art is one of the main reasons of the horror and creepiness of this. Now, there are horror and creepiness elements because of what, which path you choose and what sorcerer you create, but there's a lot of different stuff. There's there's werewolves, there's all this stuff. There's like you talked about the whole psychic ward thing. There's that whole psychic ward deal in this, and the art is just grotesque and unnerving, and more. I mean, pretty much this is you can play it with more than 1v1, but I would not. At least not. I know whenever the Endbringer comes out, where you can play it cooperatively, then that's another story. But for right now, with this box, what we have, 1v1's the best way to go. It does that whole smash up thing that we talked about with other games, where you're going to be taking your sorcerer, your lineage, and your domain. You mix up their decks, and it creates your custom sorcerer. And then so when you're battling for 3 zones, trying to just be the one that destroys your zone first, but though your sorcerer's abilities can only be done wherever their standee is. So there's that whole phase at the beginning where you're going to be placing you'll see there's a strategic, where you want to place those. you're placing minions and stuff down at those locations to battle it out or to destroy that area of England. And you're just, the biggest tedious thing about this game is the dice rolling when you're battling. If I had to pick, it's definitely not a deal breaker by any means, but
no,
it's tedious because you get these omen symbols whenever you play a card that has an omen symbol on it. You gain an omen, and that's a re-roll of a dice.
mm-hmm.
Can use them on any of
It's
those
kind
die
of
rolls.
just disappointing though, because the card play is just so solid,
right?
That for them to just resort to die rolling, it's kind of like,
Mhm.
oh, that's a little lame.
Yeah. So,
But
there's like, I can't think of the term, upgrades, I guess, or items that you can equip to your minions and stuff that'll
Mhm.
give them abilities to. But one of the other cool things, you can kind of see it in this deal, to your player mat. It has zones for you to put where your cards are. There's an action point system in this, which is
Yep.
another clever thing, because there's certain things you can do when it's your turn, and it's just back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, that you're doing actions. So you can spin. I think you have 6 actions per round, I believe.
God, I don't remember.
But so you can take an act, but and there's your currency is like energy. So you have an energy track and a turn track. So whenever you take a turn, you can do that to gain 2 energy, or you can use it you can spend an action to draw a card. You can spend an action to do this. There's so if you're getting hosed by your deck and you don't have good cards, you can spend an action to draw 2 cards.
God,
I mean, that's just such a cool thing, because you can try to mitigate that randomness of your deck a little bit by drawing extra. If you're running low on energy, you may need to spend an action to get just enough energy to play Horatio the Outcast, and stuff like that. It's just a really neat deal. And the guys that made this game, they have big time background in Magic, so you can kind of tell their card play is sweet.
It's super obvious. Yeah. Yeah, this one is not on my list.
Okay.
I did consider it because but I feel like in terms of the actual game, it's not horrific. It doesn't invoke that. The art, though, like you said, 100%. Like that's the main reason why it was even considered. Is like this has some of the best hyper realistic art almost in any of these games. Like if I'm looking at my list, like maybe Tainted Grail competes with it in art.
Right.
This one is just super awesome. I mean, but yeah, like you said, all the different sorcerers, domains, lineage, they're all surrounded in horror. I just don't get that when I'm actually playing. That could just be because it's a head-to-head card game.
Well,
so
and
I'm more focused on that.
Well, and I'm taking it from just the horror deal. Like, think about if you were in England, in London, and your town's getting destroyed by these things too. True. It's like that was kind of way I was taking it a little bit too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number.
And we will have a tournament coming up for this.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for that. Yeah, it was actually pretty difficult to create the brackets for this. But yeah, keep an eye out for that, and we'll see who the best sorcerer is.
All right, sounds good.
All right, my number 3. This one was, so clear, like that it was making this list without a doubt. It is 100%. If we're talking about horror, then this really invokes that moniker almost. Definitely going to be on your list. I would be super shocked if you just didn't. And it's a solo only game, and that gives it away. And that is,
come on.
Yeah. Final Girl. You're like, fuck, it's not on my. Is it not on your list?
All right, keep going.
Yeah, Final Girl is being the final girl alive in a horror movie. That classic horror trope that you see. All the enemies are basically, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are kind of like, oh, this is very clearly Freddy. This is very clearly Jason. Like right there, Dr. Fright. That's Freddy, like 100%. And Nancy, I'm sure there's a horror, a lady named Nancy in a horror movie. Like there's no way there's not.
I think Nancy was in Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that was the name of the main teenage girl. I think.
Well, there we go. I actually haven't seen the original Friday or Nightmare in a very, very long time. I'm not the biggest slasher film or slasher guy, but I say that, but yeah, out of all of them, my favorite is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and so it's like I don't know why that's just those are really fucked up. I think because the other ones are like more supernatural, and that one's like, yeah, any guy can come just break into my house and just cut me in half with a chainsaw. So yeah, I mean, you play as the final girl in a horror film trying to survive and either complete the objective or defeat the big bad. And even has a mechanism to where if you completely whittle down his health, so in this case Dr. Fright has 9 health, but there's a token underneath that you flip, and it's one that in a lot of other games would piss me off, but it works here. And he might have extra health, you don't know, and that's to represent like the traditional like Halloween style where Jamie Lee Curtis thought that she killed him, even though it's been 20 movies and she just can't seem to fucking kill him. And but like kind of like that where they walk away and they're like, oh, it's over, and me and my boobies, and then he like sits up and you're just like, oh no, it's like he's gonna get you. So that's kind of what that's supposed to feel like. It's so good. Like you pick the different yeah, and the fact that it's module, like so you pick your final girl, you pick the location, you pick the big bad, and then you just have kind of a different game that's going to play. We keep mentioning the smash up style, but this is more with boards, and now they're going to have a cassette. I think it's like a VHS. Like it's supposed to be the big box.
It's like a big VCR thing that's going to
hold. What I say? Oh, VHS is what
it is. Yeah, same thing. Yeah,
and that's what these look like. And oh my god, the storage for this game is brilliant. Like the magnetic clasps of, okay, you just have the location and the enemy, they just come together. It's just, they knocked it out of the park with this one. And it's at number 3. It really should be number 1 if I were to. I mean, Mansions of Madness is atmospheric, but if you're going horror and you want to go that horror movie route, like yeah, without a doubt this one just takes the cake. But I had to put 2 more above it because of just the way I did this list. And I should keep talking about it because Brad didn't put it on his list. So I'm amazed, man.
So anyway, this I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they haven't officially said anything, but I think they've already kind of been talking about preparations for season 3.
Yep. And I actually I talked to the designer at Gen Con this past year, and he actually he watches the channel. He's like, yeah, I love your content. I'm like, hey, all right, that's cool. And then I kind of asked, I was like, hey, anything on season 3? He's like, we've announced it, we're not anywhere near it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's kind of what I figured. But season 2 is already on the way.
Yeah, they're really good at getting their stuff done and out. They've always have been, Van Ryder. So
yeah, and the ideas that they had for season 2 was awesome. There was one that they didn't do. I'm sure you had a good idea, right? I feel like
what did I say?
What you were hoping for, they didn't do.
Wasn't mine like something to do with like virus?
I remember you kind of saying that, but I don't know if it was for this.
I can't remember what it was. No, that was for Smash Up.
That's right.
But no, I can't remember what there was.
Yeah, I know they did. I know they did the thing.
Yeah, we were talking. I remember I had something I said, but I can't recall off the top of my head. No.
Let me see. I'm looking it up real quick because we got to just amp this up. Oh, Alien. It's Alien, the Thing. I'm kind of taking a quick look at the pictures. God, yeah. Oh, and then they have the Necronomicon. It's just a randomizer for event cards. So the Organism, Station 2819, that's the Thing. This one is The Intruders. That I think is The Strangers.
Yeah.
Big Bad Wolf story, but that's Little Red Riding Hood. The
That was
Ratchet.
kind of a weird one.
Yeah, that one they went more lore heavy instead of kind of like going off of a traditional horror films. I guess Ratchet Lady, Wolf Asylum. That looks like that's an Asylum one. That one I'm not sure on. And then they had a few. I thought they had 2 more that they unlocked, but yeah. So yeah, Alien. Alien was one. So yeah, this one is fantastic, and I don't own many solo games. And this is, I think there's this one and Under Falling Skies.
Yeah.
I think are the 2 solo only games that I own. So yeah, this one is fantastic. That is my number 3, Final Girl.
All right. Well,
it's a shame that we make these PowerPoints ahead of time now, because you can't modify it.
It is. All right, my number 3 is a game that's another crossover.
Well, gee, it's definitely not this one. Cthulhu Death May Die?
No.
Oh. I don't know. Subterra?
It is Subterra.
Oh, okay.
And this game is all the way up here because, I mean, I don't like we talked about the phobias and stuff. I don't like being in underground. I don't like the water. I don't like the claustrophobic feeling. But then I think the thing that seals this for being this high is because of that whole, you just get that uneasiness at that towards the end, and that when you're knowing you need to get to the end, and then there's that whole mechanic, with the flashlight and all that stuff popping out and everything. And it's just, there's just that feeling of urgency and dread, and knowing that the darkness is closing in and stuff. And I don't know, man.
We didn't even talk about like cave-ins, like having to rappel down on ropes and stuff.
And the thing I like about, I think another thing that I liked about this is you have your different characters that have those different abilities, and like the one that can break through walls, and stuff to help people out.
Exterminator, he can destroy nests and
right. But you also have that damn monster pawn that just keeps following your ass around too, whatever and stuff. And it's just, there's just a lot of stuff with this that I know it's a very abstract looking kind of game for the most part. You have to pull the horror out of it, but I think that they inject that into a simple game of just tiles and meeples for the most part.
I mean, I think they didn't, because in all the other games that we've kind of talked about, I mean, everyone knows what spelunking is. So like these are real phobias. These are like, it's hard to be fearful over eldritch abominations because they're not real.
Right.
But you could still probably put yourself in that headspace, whereas this one, you don't have to. It's like, I don't want to go into a cave. I don't want to get into still water in a cave, or God forbid, have to go underwater to go underneath a rock. Yeah, fuck that. But that's all real stuff that people do. And then like, I can't watch movies like what was it, Subverged or something like that, where it was about people trapped in these and the water's rising. It's like it's not Subverged. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's absolutely not. God,
exactly.
Me out thinking about it.
So I mean, and you look at this game on the tape, and it doesn't look like it. If you just walk past, it's like, oh, it's just tiles and meeples. But when you're playing it, it gets you.
Yeah. The I mean, the one that's other, I don't know if it's going to be on your list. I don't think it is. I would imagine I might know the other 2. But on a few other people's lists, they talked about the Night Cage. And the Night Cage was kind of a similar, gave that KDM kind of theme, but in this kind of gameplay where you have like a candle and you're traversing through this type of maze thing to find creatures. And I remember seeing it at Gen Con years ago, and I was like, oh, this looks really cool. but I own Subterra. So
yeah, that's the only reason I haven't ever bought Night Cage, because it's a reasonably inexpensive game retail, and
yeah,
but I'm like, why have that when you have this? You know?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. All right, yeah, this is a good one. Like, I mean, just the reactions I've gotten, I probably should have put Subterra higher. But I guess whenever I was making the list, I wasn't really I wasn't talking about it.
Right.
So that's why I ended up at number 9. But yeah, it probably should be higher because I'm sitting here just like, nope, nope. But still, number 2 is another one for me that kind of actually has a real life phobia of mine, and attaches it to the horror nature of Abominations, and this one just does a phenomenal job at storytelling, and kind of encapsulates a lot of the other ones that are kind of on this list, but does a little twist on it. And my number 2 is Deep
Yes.
Madness. So Deep Madness, this is actually, I was pleasantly surprised to know that they're going back on Kickstarter for more content. So that's really cool. Deep Madness is kind of another one of your Lovecraftian, they kind of sci-fi horror, where a lot of the things you're coming across are just these grotesque abominations of just various tentacles and zombie kind of like things. The best comparison I can make of this game is Dead Space. So if you want to know kind of what this game is trying to invoke, they just actually showcased a trailer for the Dead Space remake, which is horrific because it's all about being in this case, underwater station, so very tight corridors, just walking into a room, and it's just like this murder scene, this massive crime scene of just gore and visceral things all over the walls, and you're having to go through it as these monsters are chasing you. You have to deal with, of course, your own sanity track. But what's interesting about this is they do a flip on it. Instead of just a sanity track that is basically a secondary health bar, you have to, whenever you take sanity hits, it's actually like you can use your sanity to actually do effects. But if you kill monsters, if you have any sanity tokens, they flip into madness. So you actually start going insane that way. I thought that was a nice twist. The storytelling is done obviously through the scenarios, but through a bunch of cards, event cards, consciousness cards, madness cards that are kind of like, I can't think of the word, but whenever you go into any like kind of RPG and you come across a log and it just tells you the story of like, oh, hey, this is what's been going on here. This one is one of the best that I think really pulls you into the world. And because it's underwater, they have a water mechanism. So the dials that you're seeing here are actually your oxygen, that if you go into any water in the base, it doesn't slowly flood, but there's areas that are already submerged that you have to go into. And that just, I don't know, just these kinds of creatures running after you and getting into the water, and they're not really hindered by it while you're trying to like solder through a door or something while this thing's swimming and you're running out of oxygen. Just absolutely terrifying. This is one of the best. This was easily one that I thought of, and it's like it has to be higher up at number 2, because while it does similar things like Arkham Horror and Bloodborne and Cthulhu and all those, the fact that it has the water it's kind of like amplified it up for me. So yeah, and there's so much content for this, and there's apparently going to be even more. So yeah, this one is your epic. This would be kind of like if you want to play a grandiose kind of horror game, I would say this is definitely worth playing.
Yeah, this is another one I think is on our list, isn't it? Because I haven't played this one either.
It is.
Okay, I figured.
Because we last time, well, not last time, but a few times ago, we played Reichbusters.
Yeah.
And that was kind of our big epic game, because I set up like a heist one, and those are huge. And I mean, obviously Reichbusters isn't on this list. It's not horrific. But yeah, there's something about Deep Madness, like,
Yeah.
and then there's going to be Dawn of Madness, which this company was, Dimension Games was at Gen Con, and they actually did something, because I was like, oh, is this about to come out? And it's not, but they went to Gen Con and paid for a booth and all that, and was showcasing Dawn of Madness to basically let people know, hey, it's here. Like, and now when, if this has a lot of writing, Dawn of Madness is something else. Every character has their own book
Gotcha.
of encounters and storytelling, and so, and I think there's eight characters. I think just out the gate. I don't know if that was, I can't remember if that was total or stuff, but that's a lot of writing. So I applaud them for that. So this one, yeah, I guess go check out their Kickstarter when that comes up, because it's a lot. And if you like Dead Space, Alien, yeah, those kind of, Arkham Horror, definitely. This is a combination of all those. So that's my number 2.
All right. Well, my number 2 is another crossover.
Oh man, is it Cthulhu Death May Die?
It is.
Okay.
All right. So this one, I can't remember if this was my number 1 or number 2 game of all time on this the last 100 we did, but it's right. It's one of
number 2.
Okay,
I put Marvel Champions at 1.
Yeah, those are kind of interchangeable at that point, so I wasn't sure. But anyway, so yeah, and as excited as I am about this game and everything, finding out, like you said earlier, about having the new Kickstarter, I'm just like, yes.
I was amazed that you hadn't heard anything, because I was totally expecting you to tell me about it, but I guess right time for me.
I had saved the YouTube video, because they had said, that we're going to do, we're going to have a video on the 5th, October 5th, talking about our next Kickstarter. So I saved the video and all that stuff, and I knew it had come out, but I hadn't had a chance because I was at work. And then you brought it up. I was like, oh, so then I watched the video at my lunch. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
So no, Cthulhu Death May Die to me, whereas there are, as far as the horror version of it, there are some games like, you talk about Deep Madness, there's stuff like that would maybe be more horrific, but the thing that brings this game up to this point for me is just the elder god that you're facing, mainly, because when, like, if he/she comes out, you can't touch them until you've disrupted the ritual, and then you have to beat them like 3 times. So it's
and his abilities are cumulative,
right? And so you have to beat them those times, plus you're racing against the clock of going insane, because that's a timer. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you are a badass, but this is not an easy game, and the slightest. No. That's even as big of a badass as you are, it's still a hard game to get through.
Right.
And it's amazing to me how well balanced they've done that, because I've never been, I guess I shouldn't say never, Dagon, one of the gods in the Unspeakable box, I've tried him multiple times and haven't even gotten close to beating him.
Really?
Whereas all these other gods, they're balanced well enough to this point where, there's a point where you come in and you're kicking ass, and then you're overwhelmed to the point you just like, shit, I'm going to lose. And then it comes down to the very end. It's like that one big last push, whether you're going to win or lose. So they all seem to come down like that.
It's funny. Every single Lovecraft game, without fail, Arkham Horror LCG, Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, and this one, the god-killing weapon, shotgun. Whoever can get a shotgun, like, it's just, I don't know why, like, it's just, it does so much damage, and it's like, oh, okay, the ritual's done, let me just blow off Cthulhu's face.
This is just, I think, throwing in the horror theme of this with the monsters, but then also adding the time variation, and just the build up of all of the stuff, that crescendo of stuff, is the reason I get it this high, just because. And it's just a really, I mean, the tile size really is the only damn thing I can complain
It's
about
bad
at all.
I played this game actually at Gen Con. I brought it with me, and the tile size sucks.
It sucks,
really
but it's
bad.
not a deal breaker, obviously. I mean,
I'll still play it, but it's like, come on, these minis are huge.
Yeah, I can see why they chose to do it, but they needed to either go small minis or bigger tiles. But yeah, I mean,
so clean.
If you get the unspeakable box, your stack of heroes goes from half an inch to a full, well over an inch of heroes.
God, I really hope like they have to, right?
I would think, but
there's no way they're oblivious to the fact that that box is like $400.
I mean, the thing is I mean, I need to go back and think about other CMON Kickstarters where they've come back with new seasons, and if they've offered the Kickstarter exclusives from.
But they've never come back on Kickstarter for the same game. I mean, I guess
Zombicide, but that's what I'm trying to say, because I backed a lot of the Zombicide stuff, and I don't remember them ever offering the previous Kickstarter exclusives.
Yeah, I think Zombicide's a little bit different because they're always kind of standalones. I don't think you're able to mix like the Wanted Dead or Alive with the Black Horde.
I don't know about those because I haven't backed any since the ones that were joining together.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they've always been standalone games, and this is their first one that is actually the same game, just more content.
So
I don't know. I think
a lot of it will just be their stance. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna do, but
people are clamoring for that though.
Yeah, they are.
Box and I remember looking at that. And Big Cthulhu, which that one you can find for its price on. I mean, at least last I checked, it was like 300, and I'm like, I think that's how much it was anyway.
Yeah, but for 250, you could have gotten the whole Kickstarter set with the thing at one point.
Oh,
and then add $50 for season 2 box, so it would have been $300 to get the big mini and everything. So it's like, I hope they don't. I don't know. The way they charge shipping now, it's probably going to be a freaking fortune for shipping anyway, because CMON's got that whole shipping cost thing. But yeah, this one just bonkers. I'll throw whatever money they put. I don't really care what the amount is they put on their Kickstarter. I'm gonna end up spending it.
I think this one's gonna, because this one didn't do super well when it first came out.
2.5 million, I think,
which is
back
basically
then. I mean, it was
garbage numbers.
Yeah.
But I think because people were tired of Cthulhu, and then now that it's been a few years, everyone's
and people know that it's a good game.
Yep. All right, my number one. You have any guess? I'll give you a hint. It's based in realism, and it's actually kind of depressing.
Oh, because I was gonna say Fury of Dracula, probably.
It is not Fury of Dracula. Nope.
That
was on my short list.
Shit, I have no freaking idea.
All right.
Yeah,
so
go
my
ahead.
number one is, like I said, it's based in realism. It is unfortunately, this is going to be a little maybe not so much tug in cheek. That's for lack of a better term, but I mean, it's absolutely horrific, and especially with world state the way it is right now, this is just super shitty. But I think it invokes this as a very real horror feel, and that is my number one is this War of Mine.
I never would have guessed this been on the list. I mean, I understand why you picked it, but I never would have.
Yeah, exactly. When you were like, we're gonna have a lot of crossover, I'm like, there's gonna be some surprises. I think
we're still gonna have 5.
We're still gonna have 5. Okay. Wait, is it 5? Anyway, so obviously this is at 2022. Some shit is going down, and it's obviously horrible. And this one really can hit home more so than when it first came out, I think, just because of all the stuff that's going on. But this War of Mine is about people, just regular people surviving in a war-torn city and doing their best they can to scrounge up any supplies and deal with everything that's happening, raids and snipers, and just trying to go out at night under the cover of darkness to try and get enough to come back to your home and feed the people that have bundled up there. It's not an easy game by any means. It is very, very brutal. The storytelling in this is also top notch, but some of the scenarios you come across are horrendous of what people have to do just to make ends meet, or just what they have to do to survive in something like this. This was easily my number one, because while it may not have hit number one, it still would have made the list, because this is just awful. And keeping up with what's happening over in the Russia Ukraine stuff, it's so fucked up. And yeah, I mean, I definitely don't like talking about like politics or anything like that as much on the channel, because I like this to be somewhat of a reprieve from the horrors of everyday life. But this isn't everyday life, but it is for some people now, and it fucking sucks. So I think this game now more than ever is more horrific. So yeah, like I still think I can still separate from playing this game and still having a good time and still thinking that the game is fun. But whenever I was like, man, what horror games? Yep, that's it. that's my number one.
That's a good choice. Yeah.
So yeah, although I mean I'm not gonna belabor the point anymore, but this one, I think. Oh, I thought I had my list written down. I did not. Probably at any other time, Final Girl or Deep Madness, or those would have been number one. But yeah, this one's a rough one, and that's kind of what I was talking about. I ranked it by how, like how much they invoke horror, and this is just more I guess more real than almost any of them.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's my number one, This War of Mine.
All right, good choice. All right, got my number one.
Let's see.
It's been brought up.
Is it a crossover?
Yes.
Oh, you put Hostage Negotiator?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna be like, oh, that's what it is, but in reality, it's is it Final Girl? Is that your number one?
It is.
Okay. Nice.
I tried to keep a straight face.
Yeah, you got me. I was like, no way. There's no way he forgot this one.
Yeah. No, this one was my first. I mean, as soon as like I made my list, I automatically put this at number one. Just because I am a solo player.
Yeah.
I love the Hostage Negotiator system. I love the horror theme stuff. So when this was announced, it was just a perfect mesh of all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't disappoint at all, from, like you said, the production to the things that they brought into and added upon the Hostage Negotiator system to make it so much better of a game. Having the spatial deal. So it's like, because in Hostage Negotiator, you they were just sitting on a board and you were trying to talk
them down or whatever.
This one, you actually move around a board and you're moving away. They have the monster out there and you're trying to do stuff. It just adds that stress and especially if you choose monsters that you grew, because I grew up scared to death of a lot of these that were put in this first season, and so it's just a superb game. They
already announced season 3 and season 2 just finished. It was like a month later, they're like, oh, season 3. I mean, there's so much they can do. I mean, I would imagine if season 2 doesn't have it, which I didn't see, season 3 has to have like Pennywise, right?
With a clown.
At least a clown. So that's just one, and there's a lot. Jeepers Creepers they could go. Yeah, there's a lot that they can do, and they have every boss like super themed out. It's
and I'm almost wondering like how far down a rabbit hole they could go. Like could they go
Well, they had
to
Little Red Riding Hood.
Well, right, but I mean, like, could they do serial killers, or would that be too?
Oh man,
You know, like what
season
I'm
3,
saying?
yeah, season
Like-
4, they're actually doing real
Like
people.
Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer and all that stuff.
Fucked
you know?
up. Albert Fish, man, they would. That would be something. I don't think they will.
I don't either.
I think
just
that
'cause
would be a
it's
little.
touchy.
That'd be a little much.
But
So who knows?
Yeah, what's cool about these guys and what I love about Evan and these guys here at Van Ryder is they, you know, every time they love horror movies.
Mhm.
So every update they put out, you know, they say their business, and at the bottom it's like, what have we been watching? And they're talking about all the horror movies they've watched since the last
Yep.
update. You know, so they're just big fans of this.
Yep.
And you can tell it's just
I'm actually about to today at time of this recording. I'm actually about to go watch Smile.
yeah. I want to go see that too.
I would actually, if you're going to go watch a horror movie, go watch Barbarian.
I haven't seen that one either.
Barbarian
I watched
is
Black Phone was the last one I've seen.
Oh, Black Phone. Black Phone was fantastic. Barbarian is super good.
They've already announced another Barbarian too, like a sequel.
Did they?
Yeah, I saw something they were talking about it on. Because is it on Netflix?
No, this one is still in theaters.
Okay, because never mind. Disregard, because this is something different. Barbarian.
Yeah.
Because they said like
Yeah.
Barbarian 2 or something was going to be on Netflix this month.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, no, Barbarian it's different. I thought it was going to be a slasher film, but it's not.
Okay.
But that one, I like. God, yeah. So yeah. So and that's really cool. Yeah, you're right that they talk about horror films, and there's a lot of really shitty ones. A lot of that horror is one of those that
some of those are fun to watch though. That are horrible ones. They're just to laugh at. They're kind of funny.
Yeah,
but like
I don't know how often you go off of IMDb rankings, but like every time I'm just like, oh, I'm curious. I looked at Barbarian. It was like at a 7.6 or something, and that's like a 9 or 10 out of 10 for horror. Like no horror movie ever gets like an 8 or above. It's just such a hard shot. It's the easiest genre to get into, but the hardest one to do well.
Well, and I think what the other awesome thing about this whole deal is, you know, the first Final Girl, I'm not sure what they made on the first Final Girl when the first one was decided, but the second one, it got so much acclaim with the first season. The second season broke $2 million, and that became the highest grossing solo only game.
Really?
Yeah, because they were really proud about that. That was the highest grossing solo only game.
Season 1 made 440,000.
Right, and then it got so much popularity with its stuff that the season 2 made 2,078,000. And and I mean, and if they're doing a season 3 and it's just going to keep piling on.
Yeah,
because it's the moneymaker for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But,
all right, well,
but yeah,
good deal. I'm glad it's on your list.
Yeah,
I was like, no way.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna pretend this isn't on my list, and I was like, that's why I was covering my face. So I was like, I'm gonna start laughing.
Oh, yeah, like you were distraught, like you had forgot it. Yeah, that's a good one. That's good. All right. Well, that is our top 10 horror games. This is a very polarizing kind of topic, just because what's scary to some people might not be scary to others. There's a lot that could have been on here. But I'm glad I like that our list was different than some of the ones that I have seen, because people are gonna just, Horrified, for example. It's like, I think Horrified's a fine game. I own it. I think it's a lot of fun. But I just think that these invoke the way I went about it.
It's the trick or treat version of our list.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah. I didn't talk about my number one as much as just because like it's a little bit different, but it
makes sense though.
Right. So yeah, so that is it. Let us know what your top your favorite horror games are in the comments below, and let us know what you think of our lists. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.